It is 8:11 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw, Mike Richards. And of course, as you know, every Wednesday, it is Arrows Up featuring a Toronto Arrow. And this morning we have Riley DiNardo. Good morning, Riley. How you doing, buddy?
Morning. I'm doing well.
Well, you know what? It's too bad this is Zoom and not Twitch, because people complain that we're not live on the cameras. They have to wait later on to see it, because the beard is perfect.
Yeah,
the beard is stunning.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a few months growing. Benefits of not having to see too many people. I'm allowed to let it grow a bit.
Now, normally, are you a bearded man, or people going to go, what's with the look? What are you, lumberjack?
Usually,
what's going to happen?
Usually I got a bit of scruff. I'm a bit too lazy to shave it every day, but I think this is the longest it's ever been.
Well, I'm sure a lot of your teammates are going to fall into that category. And as we have talked to basically all your teammates, coaches, strength training, it's amazing the positive attitude that you guys have carried through all of this, because it's not sometimes easy to do for anybody in this time, let alone being on a professional rugby team. But you've managed to do it. I'm just curious, in terms of remaining close with your teammates, is this, this Zoom that we're doing right now, is this something that you guys have done? Do you keep close with the teammates?
Yeah, I mean, one of the benefits of being in a team sport like ours, throughout a pandemic or a problem like this, we've got a great support system with the team. So like we've done quite a few quiz nights with the boys on Zoom. Usually have a couple every couple weeks. We usually get on and have a couple beers with the boys and just kind of make fun of each other on video and have a couple good laughs. Like everybody's a phone call away or a video chat away. And the video games help too.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tight group, Riley. I mean, we're learning that throughout our first year with you guys. Your relationship with the team, how does it start? And maybe take us through your journey to the Arrows and how you came to be, because your background in rugby is quite extensive.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Toronto, like most of the boys on the team. Grew up playing on the Ontario team, the Ontario Blues age grade. And then, I think I've been playing with a couple of guys since I was like 14, like Lucas Rumble, Paul Cellini, the guys around my age I've been playing with for a while. But yeah, I grew up here playing, moved out to BC for a couple of years to play with the National Sevens team. And then when that was done, I moved back to finish school, and that was when the Arrows started up. And I've known Silver and that staff we've had with the men's Ontario team for a while, and they wanted me to get involved. And luckily timing worked out that I moved home just as we started.
Well, it's, as I said to, and I have said to all the guys who are local guys, that, the ability to play professional rugby, here in Toronto, in your own backyard is exceptional, because, I mean, growing up, it was not something that was even a possibility. The thought of having to play professional rugby, the only guys I knew, they usually had to, they either went to Australia or New Zealand or overseas in the UK or Ireland. I mean, it was a bit of a fantasy, and you really, on the ground floor, I think, Riley, and I'll say to each and every one that when this actually goes forward, where they're actually able to see you on the pitch, you are on the ground floor of kids looking up to a Riley DiNardo saying, I want to be like that. I want to make this team. So in that way, I think for you and your family, this has just got to be tremendously exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dream come true. Like when we were growing up, all of our dreams were to play pro rugby. None of us would have thought it was going to happen in Toronto. And I mean, obviously my family's my biggest support. And I mean, my sister's probably the Arrows' biggest fan. My brother pretends he's not, but loves it. But like he helped set up most of the games at Lamport. My sister dresses up every game we have, and makes a fool of herself, but she loves it. And then I think she's a people person. So
So two siblings outside of yourself?
I have three actually, yeah. But they're all the biggest fans, but the two, I've got one that's 10 years younger than me, my brother. And then my sister that dresses up and is our biggest fan is 6 years younger than me. And then I got one that's 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where was high school for you? Where are you?
Newton Brook Secondary School up at Young and Steeles.
Okay, so North York, you're a North York guy.
Yeah.
Essentially, which is interesting because, it's funny in Toronto, where, if you mention some other sports, then I know probably what sport that school is known for. Rugby is something that came along a little bit later, technically, I would say, and I would say, at least for me being from York region, that we're talking the mid to, well, probably the late 70s, early 80s, where, if you were going to go to OFSA, then I knew the schools you'd have to go through. And at the time, it was Barrie, you had to go through Barrie schools. And someone told me, I think it was Barrie Central at the time. One of those schools doesn't exist anymore. There isn't even it's one of them. I think it might be like Barrie Central, which was interesting. Now in Toronto, if I'm talking rugby high school, what are the high schools that you would say are preeminent in that sport? Because I honestly don't know now.
So when I was at high school, it was Northern was a big one to get the OFSA. Northern and Lawrence Park were both
really okay.
Both really
interesting.
Strong, yeah. So I think in my grade 9 and 10 year, we had to get through Lawrence Park to get to cities, and then Northern to get to OFSA. And I think we lost to Northern the first year. Actually, there isn't even OFSA for grade juniors, is there? But yeah, Northern most of the time was a tough team to beat.
And then you go from there and then you play at Guelph.
I played at Guelph, after.
Yes.
So played at Guelph for 2 years, went to BC, came back and played another 2 years.
Gotcha. Guelph seems to be a pretty big foundation for rugby as well. You got a lot of teammates there. Is that would that be considered, like U Sports, one of the bigger rugby programs that you have, especially here in Southern Ontario?
At Guelph, so I'm actually at Guelph Humber, or I was at Guelph Humber, which is Guelph University at Humber campus. So I had the option to play for Guelph and Humber College, I guess. And I chose Guelph just because the U Sports rugby, or the OUA rugby, is a higher level, higher competition, and I knew Corey pretty well.
Yeah.
Who's coach of the Arrows, coach of Guelph. But yeah, rugby's a big sport on campus, but I'd say their big one's probably hockey. They've got quite a good hockey team. And actually, they're amazing at cross country or track.
Right.
But yeah, like rugby's a big thing in Guelph. Like the guys are pretty active in the school and the community, and they're a great group of guys there.
Well, it's interesting because when we talk about now U Sport, but CIS, very often when we start talking about McMaster, which has a lot of your teammates in Guelph, I don't hear much about Western, which is awesome because it's such an annoying school, and anyone who goes there is completely annoying. But I guess they're too wrapped up in themselves, or probably football, to actually. Do they play rugby? Does Western have a rugby team?
They do, yeah. So Tom Dolezal, who played with us last year, is actually their coach right now, I believe. And Pete Milazzo graduated there. I'm trying to think if anyone else went to Western from our team. But
I hope not. It's really cut down. Trust me, I hear way too much of those guys anyway. So I'm always thrilled when I say, hey, went to Guelph. Hey, went to McMaster. Hey, went to UBC. Good. Let's keep all those schools in. Western out.
I guess we won't be seeing Pete on the show anytime
soon. We're in conversation with Riley DiNardo here on Newstalk Sauga 960. Dave?
Hey, Riley, take us through the ABCs of scrum-half. What exactly is that positioning on the field for all our new rugby listeners? Because, since you guys started collaborating with us, we have a lot of new listeners to rugby, watchers of rugby. Same boat, that they're very disappointed that the season only lasted 5 games for you guys. What does scrum half position on the field and your responsibilities for the most part?
We're one of two positions that kind of control the game. We make a lot of the decisions on what we're doing with the ball. So one of the most key aspects of a scrum half is having the good skill to move that ball around. You got to be fit because you got to follow the ball around everywhere, and that thing moves pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And you got to talk. You got to tell the boys what's going on. You're kind of sitting. So another name for the scrum half is a halfback, because they kind of sit halfway back behind the team, I guess, on defense. And we're letting them know what they're doing. We're kind of trying to make sure our numbers are spread out well, and really just trying to keep that communication up. And yeah, control that game.
You know, it's interesting when compared to sports, and when people would talk about a scrum half, I'm going, well, you take a little bit of almost different sports and you combine them all into one body. You're kind of a little bit of a quarterback, you know, when they talk about run pass option, right, read option, that's part of what you do. You're also a little bit of a point guard. There's a little bit of that in you, and like you've got to be not only a very good athlete, like you've got to be a really quick guy. But you also have to be quick thinking. Like there's no hesitation in what you do, which means, you know, I think when I look at the scrum half position, you know, if you don't have a good one, you can't win, at least in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, like you got to be competent, because I mean you're passing the ball every time out of a ruck, almost every time. And if you can't pass the ball to someone's hands, then your offense isn't going to get going well. It's going to be tough to do anything if that ball's not moving properly. And defensively, if you're not telling the guys what's going on, you're going to get caught on overlaps. There's going to be gaps where you don't want them.
Now, here's the other thing too. You know, you said you obviously talk a lot, because then, like a quarterback, you're constantly, you know, amongst other things, telling guys what to do. But with the name Nardo, how Italiano are you? How Nardo? I'm guessing is Italian.
Yeah, it is. I was raised in Toronto. I was actually born in Saudi Arabia. My dad was working over there, which is, I guess, a fun fact about me. But
yeah, no kidding.
It is a fun fact.
My dad's birth father's pretty Italian, but it didn't come down into me too much.
So you're saying so you could have beefaroni and it wouldn't offend anyone in your family?
No, I don't think so.
Riley, we're getting a question here via Twitter, and thank you for everybody listening in on Sauga 960 this morning. The difference between rugby sevens, because you mentioned you played rugby sevens, difference between rugby sevens and what you guys play with the arrows, outside of players on the field, what is the major differences, and how hard is that to transfer between the two styles of rugby?
So, like you said, the biggest difference is the number of players on the field. The field stays the same size. So try and imagine 15 guys across 60 meters. You got about 4 or 5 meters of space between each of you. Now change that to 7 guys across that same 60 meters to cover. It's a lot more space per person. So there's tons of space to run, tons of space to move. You got to be quick and fast to play sevens, because of all that space to cover. There's a lot more responsibility on each person to make their tackle, to kind of control the game. It is exhausting. You play a game of sevens, it's only 7-minute halves because of all the space. Yep. But you play a game of sevens, you are dead at the end of it. Like, you are exhausted if you're not conditioned properly. And even if you are conditioned properly, you are still hurting.
Yeah, I would believe that. That's a lot of pitch to cover for that many guys. Seriously, that's incredible. Roddy, thanks so much. Once again, another terrific individual on this Toronto Arrows team. And as I said, each and every time we get to this point in the interview with all your guys, it's like this is the time where we be getting ready to see you play this weekend at home. And it's just crushing that our first time for Dave and myself to be associated with the team, we don't get a chance to see you play the weekend. That's like everybody else, because it's like this great secret that we don't want to be a secret. We want everyone to know just not only how great you guys are off the pitch, but the way you guys play on the pitch is what we really, really are craving. And I guess we'll have to wait like everybody else, but boy, I can hardly wait to see you guys play, because you're each and every one of you guys are fantastic. So Roddy, thanks so much for this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
That is Riley DiNardo joining us on Arrows Up, and once again another home run of a person for an organization that each and every week just proves that they belong, and they belong in this city. And I can't wait for everyone to see this team play.